Hi, I'm Brian. I'm 18 now, and last week, my estranged father tried to add me as a co-signer on a loan, without asking me first. That's how I found out he still had my social security number. But let me back up. 3 years ago, at 15, I learned the hard way that love in a family can be conditional. That being blood doesn't mean you're protected. Sometimes it just means you bleed closer to home. And Jake, my older brother, knew exactly how to sharpen the knives. He was the golden child. I was the convenient shadow, quiet, average, invisible when I wasn't being blamed for something he did. Jake lied a lot. And Dad? He ate it up like gospel. Mom used to be the buffer, but even she got tired of trying to hear the quiet truth over the thunder of Dad's rants and Jake's performances. It all really snapped that one rainy Friday. I was learning a song on guitar, my thing, my one peaceful thing, when Dad screamed my name like I'd set the house on fire. I hadn't done anything. But there was a broken picture frame in the living room, Jake biting his lip like a victim, and Dad already convinced I'd done it. I got grounded for the weekend, again. But Monday morning, I overheard Jake bragging on the phone, actually laughing about how easy it was to blame me. That was the first fracture. I walked out of the house without my phone, without my jacket, just needing space that didn't hate me by default. When Dad found me 3 blocks away and told me I wasn't welcome home if I was going to act like this, I didn't flinch. I just walked. I stayed with Carson, my best friend. His family didn't ask for details. They just gave me dry clothes, a hot meal, and a spot on the couch. And I realized something horrible and freeing all at once. No one came looking for me. 2 weeks later, I went back home. I needed school stuff. I needed closure. What I got was confirmation. Dad was in the kitchen, laughing with his buddies. Yeah, kicked him out in the rain. Little punk thought he could defy me. He said it like a joke. But then Mom walked in. She heard it too. Something in her face cracked. She didn't say a word. Just let an apple roll out of her grocery bag and walked right back out. And that was the beginning of the unraveling. That night, when I came back again just to grab a hoodie, Mom was at the kitchen table waiting. Tea for 2. Hers steaming, mine untouched. Sit, she said, not looking up. I did. You didn't tell me what he said to you that night, she added after a long pause. I figured you already knew. I didn't. She told me what Jake had said, that I broke something and screamed at Dad and stormed out. The usual script. And she'd believed it. But after hearing Dad gloat about leaving me in the rain like I was trash on the curb, something shifted in her. Something finally broke loose. I'm sorry, she said. And she meant it. It was the first time in years I'd heard her say something that wasn't meant to calm a storm but to name one. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded. But that moment? That should have been a turning point. It wasn't. Because when Jake saw the tides shift, when Mom started giving me the benefit of the doubt, spending more time with me, asking about school, watching me play guitar, making sure I'd eaten, he didn't just act threatened. He got mean. My charger disappeared. Then my homework. Then all my socks ended up soaking wet in the bathroom sink. Petty stuff at first, but it kept growing. One night, I came home and found Dad already pacing like a lit fuse. Where is it? He barked. Where's what? $200 from my drawer. Gone. I didn't need a crystal ball. I just looked at Jake sitting on the stairs with that performative guilt slathered on like stage makeup. He saw you go into our room yesterday, Dad said. I was looking for Mom. Don't lie. I tried to explain. I'd been saving for a guitar amp, working weekends at the corner store. Check with Mr. Hernandez, I said. But it didn't matter. Once again, my word meant nothing. That night, I stared at the ceiling in Carson's basement and realized something that made my stomach twist. They needed me to be quiet. But I wasn't going to be. The next day at school, I went to the guidance counselor. I told her everything, every lie, every punishment, every time my family let me drown so Jake could float. She listened. And that was the first domino. When the social worker came 2 days later, Jake panicked. But nothing could have prepared me for what Mom found the next morning. His phone. Group chats. Screenshots. Videos. Jake bragging to his friends. I'm gonna get Brian kicked out again. Dad believes anything I say. And just like that, after months, maybe years, the truth was no longer mine alone to carry. But what happened next? That was the real betrayal. I thought the messages would be enough. The screenshots, the video of Jake mocking me after getting grounded, the one where he fake cried after breaking a plate, it was all there. Clear as glass, undeniable. And for a split second, watching Mom stand in the kitchen clutching Jake's phone with her face drained of color, I thought, finally. Finally they'll see. She turned to Dad, voice shaking but clear. Look at this. Look at what he's been saying. Jake stood behind her, trying to snatch the phone back. It's just jokes. It's nothing. They're my friends. But no one was laughing. Even Dad looked stunned. For once, words failed him. He took the phone, sat down, and scrolled. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked to me, then back to the screen. He said nothing for a long time. Just stared. Then finally, quietly, he muttered, "You could have handled this privately." That single sentence was worse than any yelling he'd ever done. I blinked. What? You didn't have to humiliate your brother, he said, voice harder now. Going through his phone, sharing this with other people, that's not how families solve things. I didn't go through anything. Mom did. He stood. You've been plotting this. Setting him up. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, are you serious? He admitted it. He's been doing this to me for years. He's a kid, he shouted. He's still learning. I'm a kid. I snapped back. Or does that only apply when I'm the one making mistakes? The silence that followed felt like a final verdict. Mom tried, God, she tried. She said Jake needed consequences. She said it was time to stop pretending everything was fine. But it didn't stick. By dinner, her voice was soft again. Fragile. And when I asked if she was okay, she just said, I'm trying to keep this family together, Brian. You don't know how hard that is. I did. But I also knew it wasn't my job to fix a house built on blame. After that, everything froze. No more shouting. No more chaos. Just ice. Jake walked past me like I was invisible. Dad barely looked at me. Mom only spoke in fragments. And somehow, despite the mountain of proof, I became the problem again. The social worker closed the case, said there wasn't enough to pursue action. Emotional neglect was a gray area. They'd monitor, sure, but unless it escalated, there was nothing they could do. So, I stopped asking for help. And that Thursday, when I finally came home from helping the band teacher, the door was locked. No note. No call. Jake opened it just enough to see me, stared at me through the glass like I was a stray dog, and then, slowly, closed it again. I stood on the porch for 20 minutes. Hoping Mom would come, tell me it was a mistake, that someone forgot I didn't have a key. No one came. I walked back to Carson's, soaked again. His mom opened the door before I could knock. Oh, honey, she whispered. Come inside. No questions. Just a towel and a warm meal. That night I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not this time. The next day, I sat down with my guidance counselor. Told her everything again. And then I asked the question I'd never dared say out loud before. What are my options to leave? She blinked. You mean? Permanently, I said. Legal options. Emancipation. Group home. Anything. She stared at me for a long time before nodding slowly. Okay. Let's talk. It didn't happen overnight. But it did happen. The school put me in touch with a youth advocate who connected me with a housing program for at-risk teens. There were interviews, home checks, paperwork, delays. But I kept showing up. So did others. Mr. Hernandez from the corner store vouched for me. Carson's mom did too. Even my band teacher sent a letter. Eventually, I was placed in a group home 2 towns over. 3 kids to a room. Shared bathrooms. Chores every day. But it was safe. And for the first time in my life, I could breathe. Life in the group home wasn't glamorous, not even close, but it was the first place where I wasn't someone's scapegoat or shadow. Nobody there expected me to take blame for things I didn't do. Nobody stormed into my room demanding explanations for lies someone else invented. And nobody pretended I was fine when I clearly wasn't. It was strange at first, living with people who actually listened. I shared a room with 2 other guys, Marcus, who snored like a malfunctioning lawnmower, and Leo, who spent most of his time writing poetry on scrap paper he kept stuffed in his pillowcase. They were loud, irritating, and imperfect, basically everything my old house hated, but they were real. And I needed real. I kept my head down at first. I did chores, went to school, checked in with my social worker, and tried to exist quietly. But even in the background, life kept nudging me forward. My music teacher connected me with a local shop owner, Keith, who needed help with guitar repairs. He didn't care that I lived in a group home or that my family situation was a mess. He cared that I could tune by ear and didn't quit halfway through sanding a fretboard. Keith was grumpy and sarcastic, but he paid me cash until the paperwork went through, and he always made sure I left with a sandwich from the deli next door because he didn't hire starving skeletons. Slowly, things started to rebuild. Therapy helped too, not because it gave me answers but because it gave me space. My therapist, Carla, didn't flinch when I told her the ugly parts. She didn't sympathize in that pitying way adults sometimes do. She'd just sit back in her chair, kick off her shoes, and say, "Okay, let's unpack that. School wasn't perfect, but it was better. People knew, sort of, but not in a cruel way." Word travels, especially in quiet towns, and it didn't take long for the rumor to spread that I was the kid who'd been kicked out in the rain. Some kids avoided me, sure, but others surprised me. A few sat with me at lunch. Someone loaned me a physics notebook. One senior, Tom, a guitarist with more ambition than talent, invited me to join his garage band. I said yes. And then there was the scholarship, the one I'd won without even knowing. A song I had written alone in a stairwell at school. Haunting, the judges said. Real. Funny how pain sounds better when it rhymes. When the envelope came with the $2,000 check, I held it for a long time. I could have bought a guitar. I could have bought anything. But instead I saved it, every dollar. I didn't know why yet, just that I'd need it someday. Meanwhile, Jake wasn't doing so well. I wasn't trying to spy, but small towns have big mouths. Kids talked. Teachers talked. Even Carson would drop little updates without realizing he was doing it. Jake was slipping. Grades dropping. Teachers irritated. Fights starting over nothing. The golden boy had lost his shine, and the cracks were spreading fast without me there to patch them with my silence. And then I heard something that made me sit up, literally. Jake had been bragging about changing his own grades. Not hacking exactly, but using some admin login he'd found through a chain of friends and older siblings. A backdoor into the school portal. Fake extracurriculars. Deleted absences. Even a trip he claimed he'd taken to volunteer at some pretend wildlife refuge. That's when the shift happened. Revenge wasn't my goal, not the screaming kind, not the violent kind, not the dramatic movie scene where someone gets publicly demolished. That wasn't me. It never had been. But truth. Truth was a different monster. Quiet. Heavy. Patient. For years, my family treated truth like it was optional. A suggestion. Something that could be bent, edited, weaponized. And Jake. Jake had used it to carve me up piece by piece while everyone applauded. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted the truth to matter. So when word got back to me about the grade manipulation, it wasn't a lightning bolt. It wasn't a revelation. It was a slow, steady click of gears I'd been assembling without fully realizing it. I didn't act right away. I waited. I watched. I kept living my life, work, school, therapy, band practice, while a plan slowly assembled itself in my mind like a chord progression I couldn't stop humming. I needed proof. Solid proof. Not the kind they could blame on me or twist or bury. And I needed the right moment. And life, in its strange sense of timing, handed me both in one go. The school invited me to honors night. A certificate for my scholarship. A little recognition for the kid from the group home who wrote something honest on a page. And Jake? He was scheduled to receive 3 awards that night. Academic excellence. Leadership. Peer mentorship. The irony was almost funny. Almost. That's when everything locked into place. The motive. The moment. The opportunity. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. And Jake? Well, he handed me the match. Honors night was a big deal in our town. Fold-out chairs in the gym, plastic trophies that sparkled under fluorescent lights, parents dressed like they were attending a gala, and teachers pretending they weren't counting the minutes until they could go home and drink. Everyone smiled too much. Everyone clapped too long. It was all fake, and Jake loved every second of it. He was going to win big. 3 awards. Center stage. A round of applause orchestrated by people who only ever saw the surface. And my parents? They couldn't wait to sit front and center and soak up the reflected glow of their perfect son. Too bad that glow was about to flicker and die. But I didn't want to just burst through the doors yelling accusations. No. I wanted it clean, undeniable. So, I called in the one person who still had front row seats to Jake's downfall, Carson. We met at our usual spot, his driveway, 2 burgers between us, like we were still 12. I laid it all out. The admin login, the fake grades, the ghost extracurriculars. Carson blinked. Dude! That's not just cheating. That's like criminal. Only if I get caught exposing it the wrong way. I said. I don't want to destroy him. I want to hand him the rope and let him hang himself with it. Carson stared at me for a long second. Then he smirked. Okay. I'm in. What do we do? It was simple. Carson played dumb, pretended he wanted to fix a grade in chemistry, and asked Jake for help. Jake, ever eager to flex, spilled everything. Bragged. Explained how it worked. How he used a shared admin login from a friend's brother in IT. How the teachers never double-checked the attendance logs. How he'd even submitted a leadership project for a mentorship award that was literally just a copied TED Talk transcript in a Google document. Carson had his phone recording in his jacket pocket the entire time. We got it all. Meanwhile, I emailed the scholarship committee, thanking them and offering to donate part of my award back to support future submissions from group home students. They loved the idea. Said they wanted to honor me publicly, on stage at honors night. Perfect. So, the night came. I showed up in a second-hand blazer that still smelled faintly like cologne I didn't recognize. I stood by the gym entrance, watching the parade. Jake walked in flanked by our parents. Mom in a dress I hadn't seen since a wedding 5 years ago. Dad in a suit that strained at the buttons. Jake had his award smile on, the one where he squints just slightly, like the spotlight belongs to him. Mom spotted me first. Her face went still. Brian, she said. I didn't know you were invited. I smiled. Scholarship award. Jake turned. When he saw me, his jaw tightened. What are you doing here? Oh, just supporting family, I said. Isn't that what tonight's about? Dad didn't speak. Just gave me a once-over and walked off. The ceremony began. Names called. Applause offered. Speeches given. My name came up, and I walked onto the stage and accepted my certificate. People clapped, some even cheered. The principal said something about resilience and raw talent. I nodded, smiled, and stepped down. Then it was Jake's turn. The announcer read out his list: academic excellence, leadership, mentorship. The crowd applauded like seals at a fish show. And right then, Carson slid in beside me, slipped a USB into my hand, and whispered, "Ready when you are." I walked calmly to the side of the stage where the principal was shaking hands. "Ms. Rayburn," I said, tapping her arm. She turned. "Yes? There's something you need to see. It's about the school's portal system. Something important." She blinked, confused. "Can it wait?" "No," I said gently. "Trust me. You'll want to look at this tonight." I handed her the drive. She looked at it, then at me, then tucked it into her clipboard. "I'll review it after the ceremony," she said. "Thank you," I replied. Then I walked out. I didn't need to be there for the explosion. I just needed to light the fuse. 2 days later, I got the email. The principal wanted a meeting. Formal. Private. Urgent. I went. She brought 2 district admins and a notepad. They played Carson's video. Reviewed the screenshots. Confirmed the admin login matched a backdoor that had been flagged but never shut down. When they were done, one of them sighed. "Brian, this is very serious. And very thorough." "Thank you." They told me Jake would be notified that day. That a full audit was underway. That his awards were likely to be revoked, his transcript flagged, and a board review scheduled. I nodded, thanked them, and left. The explosion hit that afternoon. And I didn't even have to be there to hear the fallout. It didn't take long. I was restringing a fender behind the counter at the music shop when Carson stormed in, breathless and grinning like he just outrun a fire. "Dude," he panted. "You need to hear this." I didn't even have to ask. He launched straight into it. Jake had been pulled out of class before second period. Principal Rayburn and a district rep were waiting in the hallway. Carson said the whole school practically stopped breathing. Jake tried to play dumb. Then defensive. Then pitiful. He said someone hacked his account. Carson laughed. Then claimed someone planted the files. Then said he never even used a computer, which, like, come on, we all saw his Instagram study grind selfies. Apparently, the staff had everything already: recordings, timestamps, login data, even the fake wildlife trip entry with no record anywhere. It was airtight. There was no room to slither out. Dad showed up not long after, livid, red-faced, demanding explanations and disciplinary immunity, because his son was clearly being targeted. The district officer calmly told him to leave the premises or be escorted. Jake? Suspended pending a full academic review. All awards revoked. College counselor alerted. Carson said he looked like someone had emptied him out from the inside. "And my mom?" she cried. But not the performative kind. Not the loud, embarrassed sobbing I used to hear when she thought someone was judging her parenting. No. Carson said it was different this time. Smaller. Deeper. Like something finally cracked in her that couldn't be patched up again. I didn't say much. Just nodded, thanked Carson, and finished restringing the guitar. That night, Mom called me. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Can you come home, Brian? Please." I said I'd think about it. I didn't owe them anything. But I went anyway. Not for them, for me. When I walked into the house, it felt like stepping into a memory I didn't belong to anymore. The living room was a wreck, papers scattered, school letters crumpled on the coffee table. Dad was sitting with his head in his hands. Jake was slumped on the couch, eyes swollen, face pale. He didn't even look at me. Mom stood in the doorway, hand trembling. "Brian," she said. "Thank you for coming." No one moved. No one spoke. Until Dad finally stood. "So, you've been planning this for months?" "No," I said calmly. "I've been living. He's the one who committed fraud. I just stopped covering for him." Jake looked up, barely a whisper. "You set me up." I looked at him, then back at Dad. "No," I said. "You all set me up. For years. I just finally stopped letting you." The room sat in stunned silence. Mom eased herself down onto the coffee table like her knees couldn't hold her. Dad didn't look at me. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear. "Why didn't you come to us?" Mom finally whispered. "Why didn't you give us a chance to fix this?" I almost laughed. Not out of spite, just disbelief. "I did," I said. "So many times. When Jake blamed me. When he lied. When I got punished for things I didn't do. I told you, and you told me to be the bigger person. To take it. To keep the peace." Dad shifted. "You don't know how hard it is." "No," I said, cutting him off. "You don't know how hard it was. You kicked your kid out in the rain over a lie. You believed everything Jake said without question. And when I told the truth, you treated me like a traitor." The silence that followed didn't feel like guilt. It felt like people realizing they had no cards left to play. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "And I'm not here to fix anything." I looked at Jake, then back at them. I just wanted to say something I never got the chance to say before. They waited. "I'm done." Mom's voice cracked. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm building something without you. I have people who see me. I have a future. And I don't need to carry this anymore." Jake stood, eyes red. "I'm sorry," he muttered. Maybe he meant it. But I wasn't 15 anymore. I wasn't waiting for him to say the right thing. "I hope you learn from this," I said. "Not because you got caught, but because it's time." I turned toward the door. "Will we see you again?" Mom asked. "Maybe," I said. "But not if I'm the only one walking." And then I left. No door slam. No parting shots. Just a click behind me as I stepped into the cold, clean night. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. Because the real revenge? It wasn't exposing them. It was building a life they never believed I could have. And living it without them.